A high of 27 degrees Celsius, of course, and a 90% chance of rain today in New Orleans. Friday's forecast, it's cloudy with a chance of China dropping some Benjamins in Africa. You're listening to Lofi Poli Sci. Dr. P coming at you from Lofi Studios, New Orleans. How we doing out there, my friends? What's going on in your world today? Yes, indeed, we getting it on this Friday, for it is Friday's forecast. And no, we're not talking about the weather, but instead we are talking about China being willing to give $51 billion in aid to African countries. Now that's something worth talking about. So let's get it. And so if you didn't know, China has been going after Africa in a big kind of way to replace countries and financial institutions from the West and to take over the funding of development projects in Africa. And for a long time, this is nothing new at all. But China now has the second largest economy in the world as measured by GDP, and they're looking to spend, or rather, to invest, to diversify their international portfolio. Yes, But let's see what that looks like. What was going on today at the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit? Yes. President Xi Jinping of China, what did he promise? That over the next 3 years, $51 billion would be coming from China. 51 billion, that's a big number, all right? More infrastructure projects, 3 times as many as what was previously promised 3 years ago at the past forum. The creation of at least 1 million jobs. That's a lot of jobs, 1 million jobs. Now, of the 51 billion, 2/3 of that 51 billion would be in credit lines, meaning loans. Not free cash money. And almost another 1/3 would be in investments by Chinese companies. So again, not free. And then the rest would be via military aid and additionally some unexplained smaller projects, probably infrastructure projects. But so this is what we got. In 3 years, there is a lot going on. But is it really? Well, we do some math on this shit and see what's really going down. So firstly, we don't know that 51 billion in loans will be distributed. We don't know how it's going to be distributed. But what we do know is that there was at least 51 African countries at the summit. And 51 billion in foreign aid from China would suggest that each country might get 1 billion in aid. But we have no idea yet. We don't know. But 1 billion in aid for one country is a lot smaller of a number than 51 billion, right? And when you realize that 2/3 of it will be in loans, so a country may be able to take out $775 million in Chinese loans, and another 1/3 in Chinese companies investing in the country, and a little military aid and infrastructure projects. And really, what you have is 51 countries or so with more debt to China at the cost of about $775 million. And what those countries use that money on is entirely up to them. So China may not even be funding development in these countries via these loans, because these loans are loans. China doesn't care what they use them for. China simply gets 51 countries as new sources of revenue to add to their second largest GDP in the world. China gets to say, hey, look, we're helping Africa develop. When really, they're just increasing their own yearly profit margins. And that 1 million jobs being created, let's think about that. Where are those jobs being created? Does each of the 51 African countries get some of those jobs? ? And what if they do? What if those 1 million jobs are spread throughout the 51 African countries equally? That would mean that each African country only has the promise of adding just over 19,600 jobs over the next 3 years. And that, my friends, is not much at all. All of this, the 51 billion in aid from China to Africa, is really not much at all. In fact, it could be depicted as something we've seen before. As a country getting richer, while other countries are just collecting more debt and becoming poorer. And if that sounds like a neo-colonialist prospectus, you'd be right to think so. The question, is China really breaking from Western colonial past events and offering a new future for development in Africa? Or is China simply playing the same game as the West and replacing the West as the dominant neo-colonial hegemon in Africa? Question mark. So Friday's forecast for the day. It's cloudy, with a chance of China dominating African development. Eyes open, ears to the ground. Lots going down. Love you, Lo-Fi. And this, just a snap of what's going on in the world today.
I'll bring it down, Mike.
Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Pickering, signing off.